In less than 30 hours, voters will be choosing between whether Nikki Haley or Donald Trump will be the Republican GOP nominee. Now, as you can see here, as we are less than 30 hours away from the actual results, Trump does lead Nikki Haley, but the race is actually really interesting. This is the second official primary race for the GOP, and the first that is considered official because the first state, Iowa, technically held a caucus, not a primary. Now, this is really, really interesting. We see that Trump is below 50%, and we see that Nikki Haley is also above 36% right now. So, this is actually a decently close primary. Nikki Haley has to win this state, and Ron DeSantis, less than 24 hours ago, announced that he will be dropping out of the Republican primary, and he suspended his campaign, but he endorsed Donald Trump, which means Trump will likely see a boost. However, again, DeSantis is not polling very well in the state of New Hampshire. So I'm going to be making my prediction. I'm going to be looking at polling, and I'm going to be doing and analyzing the state of New Hampshire. Now, what's really interesting for the Republican primary here is that you see Nikki Haley has gained a lot of ground. In March of 2023, so about 10 months ago, Nikki Haley was polling at 6%. In August of 2023, so about 5 months ago, Nikki Haley was polling at an abysmal 4%, while Trump was getting a significant amount of support. But as the months went on, November 2023, 3 months after August, we see that Nikki Haley's support has boosted to 18%. We see that in January 10th, so about 50 days later, you see that Nikki Haley's support has boosted up to 28%. And now the most recent poll on January the 20th from Emerson College suggests that Nikki Haley has more than 1 in 3 voters in the state, and that Trump is at around 50%, so 1 in 2 voters in the state. Nevertheless, Trump has dropped quite a bit from his initial performance, and Ron DeSantis, who has just dropped out, did endorse Trump, so Trump is probably closer to right now about 55% to Nikki Haley at 35%. So you might say, well, it's pretty much a sealed deal for Donald Trump. Well, not quite, because there's a lot of independents who are going to vote in this primary. In fact, according to the data, about 3/4 of the electorate identify themselves as either moderate or independents. About 50% are independents, about 25% identify themselves as moderate, and only 25% identify themselves as pretty conservative. Now, what's also interesting is that if you look at this poll, for among likely GOP primary voters, you see that nearly 40% of Republicans view Donald Trump unfavorably. But if you look at Nikki Haley's numbers, it's even more abysmal. 40% view her unfavorably. That's higher than the 36% that view her favorably. Ron DeSantis also sees quite a significant backlash. You can see here Ron DeSantis, less than 30% of the Republican primary voters see him as favorable, and about 40% see him as unfavorable. Now, this is because of the fact that a lot of the electorate, as I say, about half is considered independent, about 25% is considered moderate. But this is some very interesting statistics to look at. And we also see that Nikki Haley supporters, generally speaking, they see Donald Trump as someone who is not competent to be leader, right? A Haley primary supporter considers when considering Trump, if he was the Republican primary nominee, they would be angry, which is pretty telling. We know that this means that, again, many Nikki Haley voters might not actually vote for Trump in the general election, which is pretty interesting. Now, in the 2020 general election here, you can see this was the result. Biden won the state by about 7% over Donald Trump. Now, this is by town. You can see it's pretty detailed. The larger population centers here are Concord, Dover, where, again, you see a lot of blue precincts, as well as that is the city of Manchester. So some of these areas in New Hampshire are pretty college educated. New Hampshire is among one of the most college educated states in the entire nation, and therefore we see that, again, that college-educated voters are generally the weakness for Donald Trump, and a state like New Hampshire is the perfect state if Nikki Haley was to win a state, that she must end up winning the state of New Hampshire to have any path forward. Haley's support is largely among, again, anti-Trump Republicans or some independents, and this is where she's gonna have to win the state. If she does not win, it's game over. She's gonna end up losing the Republican primary in about a month. She's gonna drop out pretty quickly, but if she ends up winning, she actually has a remote chance. At least the primary will last a lot longer than if she ends up losing the race. Now if we look at the county here, we're not going to show you these pretty much very detailed maps. We're just going to show you the county results. You can see that the counties in the state of New Hampshire are remarkably close. Only one county saw a candidate crack 60%. This is this blue county over here, where again there's going to be a few votes for the actual Republican primary. And we'll see that someone like Nikki Haley will probably do better with the bluer parts of the state, so this county, and some of the other bluer parts, more college-educated counties, and Trump will do better in the rural parts. So the redder counties, as well as that, the less college-educated counties. Now here is my prediction, as you might want to see. Now the state of New Hampshire is pretty interesting, right? Each candidate has to receive at least 10% of the vote to qualify for delegates. Ron DeSantis dropped out, so it's now just a two-horse race. So there's not going to be a third candidate who receives less than 10% of the vote. If someone receives less than 10%, the first place gets it. But again, no one's going to receive less than 10% because there are pretty much no candidates left. It's a two-horse race between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, I project to win 2 counties. This is the blue county over here, where, again, the population's pretty low. And also here. Now, if you look at the New Hampshire primary election results here, you see that this is the county where Manchester and Nashua is located. So it's where college towns and generally more educated voters live, and we see that generally that's the weakness for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's weakness is in these college towns or areas with bachelor degrees, college degrees, etc., master's degrees. These are areas that Donald Trump will do comparably speaking quite poorly. We see another county that I think Trump will show some weakness. Here is also where Dover is located, and another county he's going to show some weakness is where Concord is located. Realistically speaking, again, this is my prediction, but if Nikki Haley was to win, she has to win these 3 counties. She has to win them. This is the core of the state's population, and that if she is able to secure these 3 counties, then Nikki Haley has a shot of actually winning the state of New Hampshire. However, again, I'm saying that that is unlikely to end up actually happening, and this is more closer to what the results will probably indicate. Now, because this is a primary, I'm not going to be that accurate, but this is generally my prediction. Now, what do I project the vote totals will be? Because this is essentially a two-horse race, I project that Trump will probably carry about 60% of the vote because Ron DeSantis did drop out against Nikki Haley's 40%. If you apply that to delegates, that means that Trump will carry 13 of the state's 22 delegates, and Nikki Haley will carry 9 of the state's 22 delegates. Overall speaking, Trump will be at, after this primary, according to my projection, 33 delegates, while Nikki Haley would be at, I believe, 17 delegates. So Nikki Haley will be at about half of Donald Trump's total. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.